Welcome. This is Andrea Vitamus here with my secret agent friend, Zach.
Hello.
Who, as we always make fun of, the fact that in every country but Canada could be called a Chinese medicine doctor. People have called me many things. If you don't know, I am magician, shaman, hypnotherapist, asshole. Pretty much all of the above. Probably the same day. But it's I went there. You know what? We're not on the radio.
That is true.
All kinds of stuff that I could other side. So we're going to talk about the Do Magic Challenge, which we talk about a lot, except this is our research blog. And we're going to try to actually talk together and record it for our Do Magic blogs, because it's more entertaining to both of us, actually, in a way. And many of us are working on a similar project. We're trying to work on a miracle, but we're not going to talk about what that miracle is, because the first rule is
you don't talk about miracles.
Well, it's probably the second rule, to keep silent, to dare, to keep silent, all the 4 axioms of magic. We're going to keep silent about the exact details. But us talking and conversing about this is very relevant to something that we will be releasing very soon to the Do Magic group, but we're not going to tell you what it is. You got to join the Facebook group and you'll see the beta versions get released. It's something that we will be working on in a month, which just so happens to correspond to Andrea's not being in grad school for a little while.
What?
What? Yeah, exactly. That's how it is. But I guarantee us just conversing like this is part of this, of what we'll be announcing in formalized fashion, and I won't tell you what it is, but I will say that for the people who hate writing blogs, there will be another means to actually do that, and it doesn't necessarily have to be recorded and put out on YouTube. So we'll leave it as a mystery to draw you into the Do Magic Challenge. If we need to further draw you in, I say this as the elevator speech, the 30-second elevator speech. Do Magic Challenge, 30 days or more, unbroken magical work, 30 minutes a day, loosely based off of Libra MMM, but many systems have this sort of similar type of magical work. Overwhelmingly, and Zach can back me up on this, people who actually participate and finish the challenge have major life insights as well as major life changes consistently. That's only 30 days of work, even just meditation in some cases. Amazing every time. It's amazing to see what you can do in 30 days. Zach,
Yep.
Say something about that?
Well, yeah. I mean, the challenge we've been running for a few years now, and everyone that's participated has actually increased their life quite a bit. We actually have the blog entries and their feedback on that. So you can always go back to the backdated entries. You can read Andrea and my entries and get inspired, because we're all about doing the magic.
That's right. We're not about having coffee, books, and magicians sitting on a table. There's several authors who are participating in Do Magic Challenges with us and actually do the magic. And it's wonderful to see. So they're not just authors. They're not just selling you something. They're doing the work. And you can see the struggle is real even for them. And I think that's important.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to talk about our Do Magic Challenge, which is like an overwhelmingly kind of big challenge. Like I said, we're going to try to produce an actual miracle, which we're not going to talk about. Needless to say that this is not uncommon that I would, or Zach would see me try to produce an actual miracle, something that isn't just results, but something that is exponentially awesome results.
Yes.
But that takes exponential amounts of work and risk. and the risk that we're taking in this Do Magic Challenge, because the actual Do Magic Challenge that we're working on is self-alchemy, or changing parts of yourself. And I think for me and Zach, although it comes across a little less that way for Zach, we are actually going to work on accepting grace. This is unbelievably hard for both of us.
Yes, it is.
Particularly, I would say that although it doesn't come across that way, and you could spin Qigong and Taoist stuff and Buddhist stuff in a very right-hand pathway, that's not what Zach usually does.
Nope.
We're definitely going in a more left-hand path, self-power. And I've been pretty clear, even when I work with angels, it seems like it's more left-hand path. That's not my preferred modus operandi, but it's definitely not subservience. And the idea of accepting grace is not like fair exchange. You can't exchange something to the spirits to get the benefits. You can't earn it. You can only get it through divine love. That takes a whole lot of faith that generally I don't have. I have knowledge, which is different than faith.
Very different things, peeps. Very different things.
Right. And probably some magicians watch this and say, oh, you're doing it wrong. And I'll be like, yeah, well, I get results. And Zach gets results. And we get consistent results because that's knowledge. That's not faith. I'm not taking this on faith that, yes, I do the ritual. No, all the techniques of magic still apply, and getting really good at the techniques apply. Then the difference is how you approach this. You know, we still expect results, but we just are not going to put constraints on it. We won't get anal about balancing the scales, which I, as a voodoo savant, tend to do. I tend to balance the scales because I want no debts necessarily to the spiritual world or other people. Yeah, we're going to throw all that out. And
Yep.
So we're not talking about people listening who are completely right-hand path might be like, well, that's what you have to do. It's everything is by spiritual grace. All the power magicians have. No. No. And in fact, some of the experimental work, the techniques we're using we're not going to go into the exact techniques either, because they really are experimental and horribly, horribly, horribly risky.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't mean to sound like over dramatic, but
You're not being over dramatic. We've tested them.
We've tested them, and some people realize that, you know, although some people, they just kind of think initiations are garbage. The actual tools that I've been working on that probably never will be shared, but they might be eventually. Actually, if I ever get to the fairy book, they might be. But the actual tools have pushed people to the limits already in ways they didn't expect. And the results, we haven't gone into the actual work, but we have done some trial cases on other people, and I have to say, very promising set of results, actual measurable results, with not quite a miracle level of results, but we're not also doing the work for 30 days to produce that. It was that's one night in a couple cases.
One night, and we were testing, and the results were pretty strong on that.
Yeah, they were very strong. Well, I myself have done another test and got very strong results and saw physical magical results. Again, we're not going to discuss the actual results for, keep silent, obviously, for good reason. But the results were there. I saw clear changing of a situation based on the tools. And I will say that the type of miracle that we're going for in general has to do with spirit healing, like as in your spirit or the Shen or essence healing, which is the hardest thing to heal wounds of spirit. It's unbelievably hard. And then we can go into Hindu philosophy, Buddhism, any other Eastern philosophies and say these are karmic wounds that we're working on.
Yep.
But that has such a weird connotation in the West that you'll think we're talking New Agey philosophy. Not that there's an issue with that, but realistically, these are not wounds that are easily removed. Unlike what many of the internet philosophies actually say. You have to have, I basically would say you'd have to have people who have virtuous intention and priest-like status. But you can tell me, what do you think, Zach? Is that a good summary?
No, I mean, you're right on the ball with that. I mean, what we're really working with is closer to the soul essence karmic type issues, which are run very deep. And you do.
Yeah, and can run in families and can cause all sorts of issues. Now, I've heard many people throw around these terms, but they also throw it around in a way that seems like it's easy to heal these things, and I don't believe that. What would be the point then if they were easy to heal? You can't just write them off. I mean, maybe you can, but I'm not at that level, and I consider myself pretty damn good.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is that real spiritual alchemy of any sort like this, there's a simple metric. What happens in the world? This is the value that traditional alchemists would actually apply. They would actually ask, how has the world changed as a result of my alchemy? These are the metrics that we're actually measuring our work by, not necessarily just by saying, oh, this spiritual karma has been removed from these individuals. No, it's very serious, like what changes occurred in the physical world to back up our work. And I think so far we've seen some.
Yep, we definitely have. And I mean, it's a lot of knowledge and faith, which is like, are we going the mystical approach or are we going the more scientific approach on that side? And I mean, we're taking a scientific approach because that's the alchemical way of things.
It is. We're taking a very scientific approach as opposed to mystical. We're not using subjective experiences at all in our metrics for accepting grace. What we are using is, in general, if we have mastered these things, we have intense and multiple various ties. Me as a Hugan, I have ties to spirit, but I'm don't ask for stuff. Now, I'm not going to necessarily ask for stuff, but I am going to condition myself to be willing to receive, which I'm not always. I can admit that. We can both admit that. If you can't admit that, maybe you need to do some self-work yourself to accept the truth. That's not insulting. I think anyone who says, oh, I can accept the abundance all the time, I hear that. You look at their lives and that's not the case. That's not the case. We all have issues where we get in our own ways. And that's the nature of humanity. That's the human condition. By accepting grace, we're saying we will accept the spiritual presences in our life to make changes in our life that we may or may not necessarily have earned.
Mm-hmm.
This is, I can't stress how unbelievably hard this is. This is like, it sounds so trivially easy, but it's not. I don't think many people think they can give that term lip service, but it's not. It's like, I don't even know how to describe it.
Well, it's very much if we put it in monetary standards. Like if someone just gave you $1 million with no strings attached whatsoever, what would you do with it? Could you accept that? I mean, that's a shock to the system.
Well, the thing is that could you accept it without any problem is a different question, because people could accept it, but then they would always in the back of their mind wonder, you know.
Right. But to fully accept it and then utilize it and know that it was coming from a grace point, that's a whole different issue.
Right. And that's the second component that we have to talk about. Like for this miracle, we will be working with different spiritual forces, and we have to accept grace from those spiritual forces. But that means we have to act in grace too. That's going to be difficult.
Mm-hmm.
That means we have to act in divine service. Now, as a priest, sometimes I will act in divine service. There's been times where I've had to do some pretty hard magical, I don't even know what to describe it, shamanic hoedowns, throwdowns.
Well, I mean, since it is webinar, we'll just say fucktitudes.
Fucktitudes, right? That were asked of me in as a role of a priest, and then I'm not really so gracious about it. I'll do it, but acting in grace means you have to be gracious about it. You have to be like, yes, the spirits needed this from me, and I'm part of the divine plan. So yeah, after I get done with this, I'm going totally left-hand path for a while, but I'll get through it.
Yep. You and me both.
I know, right? But there's some truth to this. This is stuff that everyone gives lip service to as easy. Oh yeah, that's just how it works. But that's not how any person who's on a middle path or left-hand path thinks of magic and spirits. And it's not like we can think about it as a vending machine either. It's not like, oh yeah, we just get grace. Well, you do, but you have to be in grace. And I think I can't stress that enough. I mean, you can't just put the quarters in and get the grace.
Right. If something comes up in our lives in these 30 days around grace, we're going to have to actually probably take it.
Well, that's almost everything, right?
Right.
I recently already had an experience with this where my wife was acting as somebody who was acting in the grace of spirits. You know.
Yep, I've had that too. So
I literally was looking at, certain opportunities, and I started saying, I don't think I'm ready for this. I'm not good enough for this. What was the grace? The grace is, no, you are good enough. And my first instinct is to tell you to just go do it. Well, accepting that message is the grace.
Well, right. I mean, I've been getting emails, people asking me questions on stuff, which I'm like, okay, it's funny how we started doing the tests, and I'm getting all these emails on spiritual questions, which, well, I don't really advertise that side.
Yeah, neither of us really like. I mean, I answer spiritual questions, but I'm a practical magician and a coach.
Mm-hmm.
I want magic to work, and it's part of the coaching process of bettering stuff. I could go into spiritual questions, but no one generally likes my answers, I think, too much. Well, you do, but...
I do, but I mean, we're on the same page. I don't like my answers either.
But they usually involve stuff like chop wood and carry water, and everyone wants the fast fix, and that's not what I usually say, I have to tell clients that too. They never want to hear it. But accepting grace means you have to just accept that and just be like, hey, yeah, it's cool. I understand you got problems.
Mm-hmm.
Except for some people. I reserve the right to still curse some people.
There you go.
Just a couple.
Yep.
Seriously, they deserve it. I say that, but it's a lie. If anyone knows, that's a complete lie. It's because I don't have no time for that. Like, you got no time for doing that kind of work. Like doing the do magic challenge and then going on the side, laying some curses. It ain't happening. Like,
you probably be like, I'd rather drink a cup of coffee and read a book before that.
I mean, yeah, or something, something like read a book, Usually it's reading a book for my classes. So there you go.
Mm.
So I think this is the difference between the cursory version of grace, which, is very easily sellable. Like the mystic version it feels good, but we're going to go for the scientific version. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to try to do these videos real fast. And then instead of maybe blogging, just do the videos talking about our experience trying to accept grace and our struggles with it.
Yep.
Our methodologies, like obviously we're working with different spirits. So we're using spiritual forces to bring about that grace. My work, I won't say exactly what it is, but it looks more like Holy Guardian Angel work. As in like using negative forces for absolutely divinely positive work. That's doubly tough.
That is doubly tough. And I'm just working on one. I'll be working on the flip side of just working with the positive aspects of growth.
Yeah. So, and I specifically, for what we're trying to do, we have specific parts and all that. I specifically took a part that really, everyone took parts that really kind of belie their strengths. We're coming at this from our strengths and skill sets. So we're not going in blind to try to accept divine grace and doing magical work on skill sets to produce a miracle, batting, 100. We're coming in with what we're probably the strongest things at collectively for all the people working on this. And it's multiple people trying to produce a greater magical effect that would be considered miraculous. It wouldn't be miraculous in the, oh my God, like some kind of crazy stuff like I've caused a hurricane, crazy stuff like that. But it would, for the people who personally know us, would consider, if we got results, that to be actual proof of magical results. Not just results, it would be proof of actual magic. I think.
Yep, there'd be no deny on that point. So
right. So we might write that as a fictional account when it's all said and done and we're successful, because I'm confident we will be. Fictional, with the disclaimer: all characters and events that resemble or otherwise seem like they might have reality are completely untrue, and this is completely fictional.
Say it together, everyone.
Fictional. I could hold my hands up and go aliens, like the history guy. But we'll just go fictional. Fictional. Would you like to try?
Fictional.
There you go. So we'll be working with different spirits, weaving a greater spell. And if you have questions about our experience with grace, you know what? We're going to try this thing Zach wants to try. We're going to tag team things, possibly alternate the conversations on each of our YouTubes. I don't know how we're going to work it.
We'll work the technical points, but we'll have a conversation happen. That's what we're planning to do.
And we're willing to entertain people asking us questions. Obviously, trolls, we just delete.
Yes.
But it's serious conversations about accepting grace from a not necessarily we drank the Kool-Aid sort of way of accepting grace. We're willing to really talk about that and dive into it in actual details.
Mm-hmm.
Much details, as you're willing to ask. Maybe not details about the work, but about our experience of that. Now, this actually fits with a lot of the Do Magic challenges that we've been doing over the last year. I feel like this is kind of the one that is
It's built up to this.
Yeah, both in the results that we're trying to achieve in practical magic and in the actual stuff. I feel like there's different aspects that we went through, but at the end of the year and last year, we were going down into, starting with the self-transformation thing. And then I think I personally went down in this Kali route and then some other routes that more or less did actually have lots of cutting effects in good ways. So now it's time to kind of ask for spiritual grace to have rebuilt or a transformation of certain problems. And that's what we're going for. So it's all really kind of actually doing the magic is kind of rough like this. There are sometimes greater stories that emerge from these magical 30 and Do Magic challenges that you'd be shocked at. And I think we're in one of those greater stories, actually.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, if I reflect back on mine, I could see the theme coming up to this point.
Then if we could just be lies and it's all coincidental, but there's been too many weird things happen. So, but we would gladly entertain questions about that. Now, obviously, we're taking I think Zach mentioned it already, a formal approach to the work and the metrics for accepting grace is basically the changes that we can see in our life that directly correlate to, or at least indirectly correlate to that accepting of that. And that would have to be outside of normal events. Like it has to be clearly probabilities outside of maybe the first sigma of probabilities. Like it can't just be your daily life and you feel better about it. And lo and behold, you're getting this down. No,
it'd be outright like things that generally shouldn't be happening or happening, or improbability that's just came out of the woodwork.
Right.
And I mean,
opportunities coming out. Yeah.
Both of us are starting to get those, and we haven't even started really officially.
I wouldn't say I've gotten the opportunities, but I've seen problems go away that were not going away before then.
Right.
On the flip side of that, probably after this challenge, we'll do another challenge where we just go all about self-sufficiency and personal magical power or something. We're going to need the balance, I think.
That we will.
Any closing remarks, Mr. Zach?
It's going to be a fun ride this month.
Yeah, like a highway to hell ride. Or like a roller coaster without seatbelts ride. If you mean that, yes, it is.
Yes.
In case you haven't started yet, go to domagick.com with a K, and you can still start up before the 1st. You can start anytime in April. If you just find out about us from the YouTube video, find out about Do Magic Challenge, where we actually sit and do the magic instead of just leave the books on the counter. Do the magic, peeps. Do the magic.
Do the magic.